Hello and welcome to The Bottom Line on TVP World. This is where we unpack some of the main business and economic stories of the day. I'm your host, Marie Cato. Easter is almost upon us, and that means it's time for peak egg consumption. However, eggs, once an affordable food commodity, have turned into a somewhat pricier product in the US, where consumers have been dealing with egg shortages. Poland, one of the EU's top exporters, hasn't been able to help so far, and Jan Kennedy will tell us why.
US President Donald Trump claimed victory in the battle against skyrocketing egg prices just in time for Easter.
You know, when I came to office, they said the eggs are gone through the roof. Eggs. I just saw the other day, they're down 73%, right? That's pretty good.
But the president's optimism appears to have been premature. In March, the wholesale price for a dozen eggs hit a record high of $6.23, as the fallout from the US bird flu epidemic has yet to subside.
Well, I think it's unfortunate because, if there's bird flu involved, it's a serious thing. So it's the way it is. I mean, it's unfortunate.
Due to a sharp decline in domestic production caused by the epidemic, the United States was forced to ramp up egg imports, which surged by roughly 400% in the first 2 months of the year. The US Embassy in Warsaw even looked into the possibility of sending eggs from Poland, the fourth largest exporter in the European Union.
Poland offered to support the United States by exporting egg powder and albumin, egg white, which we currently have in surplus at our warehouses.
Finally, last week, Polish producers signed an agreement with the US to facilitate the export of the processed egg products. Exporting fresh eggs, however, would be a bigger challenge, as sanitary standards between the EU and the US are radically different.
In the European Union, we do not wash or refrigerate eggs. Meanwhile, the American market has different requirements. There, eggs are first washed, then waxed. Storage standards also differ, including the requirement for refrigeration.
While these differences could be addressed if necessary, the US turned to alternative suppliers instead.
Shipping eggs in their shells involves additional costs due to cold chain requirements. Energy costs are significantly higher. Profitability depends on the price achieved at the end, in the port. I think the U.S. is well aware that it's cheaper to import fresh eggs from Brazil than from Europe.
Poland produces around 11 billion eggs annually, 40% of which are exported primarily to other EU nations, which adhere to the same standards. Exporting food products further abroad, however, is more complicated. China, for example, has banned Polish poultry, pork and beef due to disease outbreaks. But some experts suggest this may only be an excuse.
The Chinese market is also not easy because there's heavy involvement of the state, and it's really the state that decides which directions in international trade, especially in imports, are desirable. So there's also a very high risk there, related to the fact that these regulations can suddenly change due to a different, one might say, political decision.
While Polish producers would welcome the possibility to export to China, they are aware that relying too heavily on China or any one market is risky. South Korea and Vietnam, with which the EU has trade agreements in place, they say are good alternatives.
So you would think that if one country has a shortage of something, it would turn to a country that has an abundance of that product. However, in the world of food trade, it's nowhere near as simple as that. To explain the situation, I'm glad to welcome Grzegorz Kozieja, Director of Food and Agri Sector Analyses Bureau of International Food and Agri Hub at BNP Paribas. Hello and welcome to the studio.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So that's quite a mouthful of a section that you work at the bank. But anyway, it looks like a partial deal has been struck. So as we heard Paweł Podstawka share with us, Poland will export egg powder, processed egg, to the US. So in the space of 1 week, it looks like a lot has changed. So some discussions must have taken place. Do you have any idea of what happened perhaps behind the scenes? Are you aware of any details of the negotiations or details of a deal that has been struck?
We obviously were not directly involved in that. and we must understand that even though the deal is struck, it shall not have any immediate effect on the situation in the United States. First thing, there is logistics, time, and between both continents and within the U.S. So with sea transport, it takes us up to 2 weeks to make the transport door to door. But fortunately for the Americans, the situation is a bit improving there. The development of the bird flu slowed down, and they can hope they will be rebuilding their domestic production slowly, but it will be happening.
But has this U.S. interest in Polish eggs actually highlighted anything to the Polish producer? Because in terms of trade barrier challenges, this actually perhaps has brought to attention to Polish producers that there are several challenges and perhaps they could be overcome when it comes to food products. Are there challenges that are perhaps worth overcoming and that perhaps there are areas that Poland could profit in? Can you give us some examples perhaps?
In this very situation regarding eggs, U.S. shall not become like the major market for Poland. They are too far away. So in emergency situations like this one or back in 2015, the prices were so high that it made economic sense to arrange things and to transport such fresh products as eggs overseas. As an emergency solution, yes, it may lead to some short-term extraordinary profits for maybe some companies, but it shall not be something becoming stable source of extra income.
But are there any food products that Poland just isn't exporting because of challenges that just aren't explored that perhaps could be overcome, like meat?
Yeah, well, we have a lot of such barriers in various markets. So food is a very, very specific market. So you need to protect basically very directly health of your citizens. So you create a lot of requirements that the winning exporters would need to obey. So everybody speaks China as like a dream market, but it's very hard to get into this market. It's still a development option for Polish poultry producers. We are in some kind of agreement with China, but whenever avian flu happens, we don't have in this agreement something that is called regionalization. So when you have one case of such a disease, the exports are stopped in the whole country. It's not such a case within the EU, so it is different. And we can name many other markets, Philippines, Vietnam, where you have similar type of barriers.
But in terms of the egg situation in the US, we have Turkey that has exported 15,000 tons of eggs and South Korea 20 tons. So, geographically speaking, those are even more challenging countries to export eggs to the US, but somehow they seem to have struck a deal, but Poland hasn't.
Well, it's an emergency now, so it's not something they will be doing regularly. So I wouldn't say we are missing some great economic opportunity. We are not missing some great profits. We are well established within the EU markets, and for example, when you are facing a choice whether to fulfill your regular obligations or to sell it to the US, that's quite obvious that you need to stick to the market where you usually are.
Your regular customers.
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of this processed egg deal with the US, is this a one-off or is this going to be a regular thing?
Well, it may become something regular, but I wouldn't say this is something very big. Okay. So it shall not change the dynamics of the Polish egg market. Up to now, there were only 3 countries that had such agreements with the US. That was Netherlands, Lithuania, and Canada. Lithuania and Canada, that was a legacy of this crisis from 2015, which I mentioned earlier. So we can see that this is something that is happening on an emergency basis.
In terms of these food safety standards, and obviously it's the eggs wax situation that is one of the main barriers when it comes to exporting eggs to the US. Does this make Poland reconsider its hygiene standards at all, the situation with the US, or is Poland just going to stick to its European standards and not really reconsider anything to do with the US for now?
Our standards come from the EU standards, so we have the same things. So as long as we are within the EU, I think there is no chance we will be creating something like a secondary system.
Standards. Yeah. Okay. So one of the recurring problems that's leading to these egg shortages is obviously the avian flu that is not only affecting the US, but obviously our region here as well. Poland has been affected by this situation. Is Poland doing anything in particular to address this problem?
Well, that's high on the agenda of the officials and on the producers. We have the highest possible level of sanitary standards on farms. We are the largest producer and the largest exporter of poultry meat and a major exporter of eggs in the EU. So we are doing our best. However, it's nature. So there is a period of the year where you have wild birds migrating, and it's basically happening that you get this disease, despite that you really care, and really a single mistake can lead to an infection. So it is difficult, but we are trying really hard in Poland, and we are no different than any other EU country. And if you are different, we are better.
So you're not concerned that Poland might face a situation where there is a shortage of eggs, for example?
Well,
because of the avian flu.
As I said, it's nature. So we have a very high number of disease events, of infection events. So we are in a bit dangerous situation, but fortunately we are also close to the end of this regular period of higher infections. So I may safely say that we shall not have a shortage before Easter.
Well, that's very good. But I asked this question because there are new EU regulations that are coming out, which are obviously leading to concerns amongst Polish farmers. And this total ban that is being placed on poultry hen houses, should there be an outbreak of avian influenza, is quite concerning because, I quote here, within a radius of several kilometers from the place where the disease has appeared for 30 days. So a total ban on poultry. So export would be subsequently suspended, even in the case of animals that did not come from an infected area. So obviously Polish farmers are concerned about production stoppage, huge financial losses, and a real risk to farms even going bankrupt. Obviously, this would affect the economy and even consumers. What are your thoughts on this regulation coming out of the
Well, regarding going bankrupt,
just that knock-on effect.
Okay, in that because the state covers the costs of cooling and cleaning of the infected hen houses. It's still under discussion. What will be this requirements from the EU? So we know that since the last week and over the weekend there were heated discussions between the Polish officials and the EU officials. Clearly, the EU sees the situation is quite dangerous, so they would like to counteract, but I think there shall be found a balance between what is maybe too safe sometimes, or
one extreme to another.
Yes. Obviously, we don't want to have something that was happening in France over the last 2 years, where they had a lot of animals killed. But I believe the compromise will be found.
Okay. We see that in the US, the price of eggs is expected to go up by 20% this year, after an increase of 65% in 2024, 41% already in 2025. We see that in Europe, the price of eggs is between 269 euros and 280 euros per kilogram. Do you think that the price of eggs will remain relatively stable in Poland and in Europe?
We are observing the increase of prices year to year. It's 10% plus. But in comparison to the volatility that we have, or even increases, simply saying, in the US, that's relatively stable. And I think we also a bit got accustomed to the changes in food prices since 2022. So I wouldn't expect anything like tens of % change.
Okay. And once we have the hens that are culled, and then how quickly does it take for farms to be repopulated and for the prices of eggs to subsequently, I don't know, stabilize or then subsequently even go down, if that's even possible these days?
That's a process that you can count in months, simplifying a bit, but it's months. It depends on whether you have available eggs from hatcheries, and a lot of things need to happen before you have lying hens in your hen house. But we may say it's a few months.
Okay. And then forecasts suggest that actually Polish food exports are actually going to focus on Southeast Asia. That's where the demand is going to come from. I don't know if you agree with that idea, and if so, is that where the bets are actually being focused now?
In general, for the export.
Well,
my opinion is that we should very much take care about the EU market. It's still economically better for us to be strong in the EU than to fight at all costs for some faraway markets. Wherever there is a good opportunity, we tend to be even there, like Polish dairy in China. Even for Chinese people coming here, they recognize some brands from Polish shops that are on their shelves. So whenever there is opportunity, yes, but we shall not exchange EU for Southeast Asia. This is not that kind of opportunity for us now.
Okay, and just as we wrap up very quickly, what do you think is the expected impact of tariffs on food prices?
All the barriers increase prices. So the US is heavily involved in the international trade. So they are the largest exporter of food. They trade a lot over their borders with Canada and Mexico. For the prices in the US, that's definitely like the first tire effect. We shall see. I apologize for not being more precise. What will be the knock-on effects of that? Because sometimes you are third level, fourth level supplier for somebody, and such increase in tariffs may remodulate flows globally. So we need to a bit wait until we have the final version of tariffs, and we are seeing what's the impact on the factories, production sites, etc., etc.
Sure. Okay. Grzegorz Kozieja, thank you so much for joining us, the Director of Food and Agri Sector Analyses Bureau at International Food and Agri Hub at BNP Paribas. I hope I got that right. Thank you so much for joining us. And that wraps up The Bottom Line for Monday. I was your host, Marie Cato. We're on every weekday at 5:10 CET on TVP World. And in the meantime, for the latest in regional business, follow us on X and on tvpworld.com. And for more news and analysis, stay with us on TVP World. Goodbye.